Hi, I'm John Mangini, and this is my son, John Mangini, and we've got a great new episode for you. We're introducing our 2025 scouting series. So this is an episode where we're going to talk about, um, just scouting and recruiting and what we plan on doing specifically for 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So welcome back to All Things Baseball Podcast. This is episode 17. And so we're talking about recruiting, scouting, some things that we know about.
Yeah.
But we thought this is a pretty exciting topic because, right now players are training. They're doing their strength training. They're probably they just stopped throwing and they're kind of resting their throwing arm, but they're working on their agility. They're working on the strength training. They're working on, skill stuff. So for us, we thought this is something that we want to do in 2025 is provide kind of a series of kind of if you're new to getting recruited or if your son or a family member is needing help with recruiting, we thought, we could jump in and help. And specifically here in Alabama where we live, we know lots of great resources.
Yeah. So at this time, November the 10th, this is, like you said, this is the time when kids are training. They're shutting down the arms. It's getting colder, so they have to go indoors and do a lot more things. But the recruiting period never really stops.
Right.
So if you're a sophomore, junior, or senior, things start to ramp up a little bit, but you're talking with college coaches, you're still going on visits. And yeah, we wanted to talk more about that. So
we want to talk about it. We want to be also very specific that, we're not recruiting experts. We're not scouting experts. Okay. But there's some great places that you can go to, like Perfect Game and Prep Baseball Report, PBR. They have great resources. But where we feel that we fit is that, there's going to be parents and players that are really not sure what's for them. Because those places, they're great, but they throw a lot at you. They might have camps and showcases, and they might have, all these events. And we're going to help you sift through that and just figure out what's good for your athlete at the age that they're at and their skill level and their development. And I think that's important because as you know, there's just so many things that are just, I think, unnecessary to spend your money on.
Yeah, if you look at the big frame and the picture of scouting and how college coaches and pro scouts find you, it doesn't have to be anything more than you playing on your high school team and playing with a local travel team in the off season.
For sure. And I think that the main message here is if you're a good player, then definitely
they'll find you.
But, you're going to want to know what metrics they're looking for. You're going to want to know where you fall in. Like say you've got your heart set on being a D1 baseball player and you're 5'3", 120 pounds.
Right.
And and you haven't, gone through the change that you go through when you're a teenager. So it really takes some time to figure out where you fit in. Because you could be, specifically for baseball, you could be a D1 recruit, you could be a D2, a D3, a JUCO, NAI. You won't know that probably until you get into your, maybe your 16th year, unless you're an elite prospect, like the Bryce Harper types. When he was in middle school, he was hitting bombs, or
he was on the radar early.
Yeah, Prince Fielder, 12 years old, was hitting home runs, and so unless you're one of those, everybody else is kind of following a path to get there. So we thought what we'd do is kind of share in this episode really what we're planning on doing, so that when you check in with us, you'll know, okay, these guys are going to give us some good tips, some help, some information, and we want to make it interactive. We want people to to check in with us too and say, hey, add this on, or this prospect is really up and coming in this part of the, because we're talking specifically Alabama. That's what we know.
Yeah.
We'll talk about national prospects, and we love talking about, all the great prospects for the MLB.
Mm-hmm.
But for this particular series that we'll do and start off really in January, it'll be, introducing our scouting series for Alabama high school prospects.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
quickly though, I I think it'd be important to maybe just share some of your experiences on showcases, and because people right now are looking at winter showcases, and there's a heavy cost to some of them. And what advice would you give someone in terms of showcases like right now?
Well, I would say do your research on the showcase and the company providing, or the school, travel team, or whatever program or
Organization,
place,
yeah.
yeah, whatever organization is putting it on. Do your research on them. You and your parent sit down and figure out the cost. Is this worth my time? Uh,
Yeah, like,
and how am I gonna perform? Like, is this something like, am I going in against, a bunch of other really highly touted prospects, or am I gonna get some, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's a good point. Like, what do you want out of the showcase? Like,
Yeah,
if you're 14 years old and you're going to a showcase and there's going
exactly.
to be a lot of D1 top prospects there,
You might not.
you're,
Yeah,
you're spending 300. Some of these showcases are
right.
$300-400 for a day, and so what do you want to get out of it? You can get your metrics, you can get your velocities tested, your 60 time tested, you can get your
Yeah,
vision tested. I mean, they have so many different metrics now. Blast motion with I think Perfect Game does a lot of blast motion stuff.
I never felt it was necessary that early on, and when I was like first starting to get recruited, or not even recruited, but to get on the map with Perfect Game, because usually that's, you want to build a profile there to start and get your metrics, your very early metrics, just on the site, and just to see what you have and
Right.
what you can improve on. But I always felt like anything past like hand speed or launch angle or those advanced metrics, they weren't really necessary. I think if you
Yeah.
know your 60, your infield velocity, outfield velocity,
Catchers.
arm speed,
Yeah.
and maybe exit velocity, hitting.
It's funny. A lot of people say exit velocity is overrated, but yet, if you're a D1 prospect, we know this from when you were being recruited. They wanted to see your exit velocity over 91, 92.
Yeah,
If you're D2, they wanted to see it in the high 80s. If you're NAI, you're probably going to be,
junior college, and yeah,
yeah. So they do kind of give you a baseline, of the metrics that they're looking for their particular,
right, yeah,
school or division. So anyway, I thought, yeah, showcases this time of year, be really careful, folks. I mean, it's not really necessary. You should be putting your money into your development
yeah,
at this
yes,
point, right?
for sure.
This is where you get strong. If you have a trainer, if you're part of a school, get in that program, or go, or go with a personal trainer, someone who's baseball specific.
Yeah,
Get that training down, get the skill down. If you're an infielder, work on, fielding ground balls. It may be hard to go outside when it's cold for outfield.
yeah,
Pitching.
yeah. I think if you're really eager to see where your metrics are lining up at your 14, 15 years old, which is like being a freshman or a sophomore,
Yeah.
find a relatively inexpensive showcase, get your metrics, then and you can build off of them.
Yeah.
I think there's different ways you can find out too, like getting a hold of somebody who has a pocket radar, or
True. Find people who have radar guns, and find people who have. There's some great, places in town. We know some of them that they measure your spin rate. They'll give you the velocities. I mean, if you really need that stuff as a baseline, you don't need to do that every week.
yeah,
I don't think, unless you're maybe 16, 17, 18, you're really trying to get recruited by some top schools. But
yeah,
when you're younger than that, get a baseline and then keep training, and then you can go back and check. It's
yeah,
just, again, unless you're made of money and money's no object, there's really no reason to spend all that money on showcases, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people may disagree. I think PBR and Perfect Game and Baseball Factory and all these places that have events and showcases,
Well, Under Armour is Baseball Factory.
what's that?
Under Armour is Baseball Factory.
Under Armour's
Yeah.
Baseball, but they I think they're great. I think
they all do a great job.
They have a place for players to build their profiles.
Yeah.
So that they'll eventually send them to the schools.
And I think there's also nothing wrong with the old school approach of we did it a little bit, and you think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Of getting a video together, highlight video together of, at least when I went out, I would get a highlight video of catching, taking fly balls,
Yep.
and getting my pop time and catching, throwing, blocking, receiving, doing like a little quick hitting session, just getting some of my best shots, left and righty,
Right.
and my arm velocity.
Right.
Just giving them, the coaches, a quick little 30-second, 20-second video of all the things I can kind of do, and then write a snippet of, hey, I'm this old, I'm really interested in going to your school. I think we did it probably for, I don't know, we did it for a good amount of schools, and we would go ask to visit. And
well, where you got a
to
ton of
coaches.
mileage from was the Baseball Factory, the Under Armour.
Yeah, and they could see those videos.
Yeah, and I will I'll tell you that this is a tip. Johnny was a catcher, and he was invited to. First, he went to a showcase of about 80, 90 players, and out of that showcase, only 2 players were invited to this preseason Under Armour All-American tournament, which was in Arizona in January of 2015, right? And so it was expensive, and we went out there because it was an invite only. It wasn't a camp where that's a money grab,
right?
At the end of the showcase, they ranked the players and things like that. So we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. But Johnny did really well. The reason I'm kind of laughing is we went, and you'll remember this now. We haven't talked about this for a while, but we went to a couple of colleges, and they offered you
right on the spot.
Right on the spot.
Yeah.
Right on the spot. And we remember one guy. We won't mention the school, but we remember one guy was like, "Yeah, I'll take you right now." We're like, "Oh." Remember me? Yeah. I'm like, "Oh, when did you see Johnny play?" "Oh, I haven't seen him play." I'm like, "Well, and you're going to offer him?"
See the videos, yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you know what? We don't have any catching." And they had just lost a recruit, I think.
To see the videos, and then the kind of, yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, I need a catcher desperately."
I heard word of mouth, yeah.
I saw your video from the Under Armour All-American. I saw you, bang the ball lefty and righty. Your pop time looked good. Your arm looked good. I'll take you right now. And we were like, "Oh, we weren't expecting that."
Right, yeah.
So for catchers and elite positions, if your video is really good and you're showing something maybe plus on a particular skill, right? It really can help a lot.
Yeah.
We were surprised by it.
Well, yeah.
That happened to you twice. You remember the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah. East Tennessee. So I thought that was very telling.
Yeah, well, I think what is neat about those softwares and those services is that they break it down like a major league scouting report.
That's another point.
The numbers, and if you understand how the numbers work when you're scouting a prospect, they do it for the minor league prospects and the guys coming up, rising to the majors. They give them numbers. I think it's 40 to 70 or 40 to 80, right?
Yeah, 40 to 80, yeah.
And I was in the 50s to 60s for most of the my grades. So
right, and you were 15.
Yeah, and it is pretty good. This was on the Baseball Factory page of mine. I had a couple profiles.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. That's like average to above average, and considered
in the 60s is definitely above average. Yeah.
Division 1
70s
prospect.
is like nobody really gets an 80.
Professional,
nobody
high
gets
Division 1 college.
But yeah.
Right. So I was advanced, whatever they put me as, advanced metrics, high follow.
So they give you the full detail
right.
of that. They watch you defensively, give you the metrics. So I think those things are, are very helpful.
Yes.
But you just want to make sure you understand what you're getting into with these showcases. They're just very, very expensive.
Well,
for like a 2-3 hour day, you're spending $300, $400, $500 plus the travel time, etc.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was keen on. Looking back now, and what I really should have known better was, knowing myself as a baseball player and picking something that felt right for me as a college, like going to all these places we went to, getting a feel for it, and knowing it was a give and take relationship. I felt like the coaches, if I weren't reciprocating how I was coming off as a baseball player and a person, um, because a lot of them, I think you know this too. Like they would always say, "How are your grades?" That was
Right.
like the first thing they would
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
and my grades were pretty good. I think I was okay on the ACT, but they want to know that school comes first because you're going to play.
I don't know if they want to know school comes first. They want to know that you could get in. I think. I
Yeah,
think they're
well,
more
you remember
selfish
they
than
would
that.
say they would help you get in
For sure.
but
For
you
sure.
had to have the grades to back it up.
Yeah. No. No.
So I think it's just if you had the talent wise and you were a hard worker, I think there was some way they could see that and how you presented yourself.
Sure. I mean, if you go up
Confidence
there,
was a big
shake their
thing.
hand, thank you
Yeah,
for this, thank you for
right.
that. It tells them a lot about you and what they can expect if you're playing for them.
And then I also mentioned the camps and showcases that the colleges provide is
Right.
something that I think a lot of people should take advantage of. They're not. I don't think they were too expensive. I think.
No, those were less expensive.
Yeah.
Well, they were when you went up to Tennessee Tech, there was like 100 kids there.
Yeah.
So now they wanted to see you up there, and they called
And
you
it's
and said,
yes, and
"Please
it's
come," because
better
they
to
were
know that.
recruiting you.
Yeah, it's better to know that they want you there, and they'll follow you. They'll have everybody gather
Right.
around
Right.
when they know you're coming.
But they for them maybe they charged 100 or actually we may not even paid. You were invited, so I think he may have waived that.
Yeah, but a lot of those college showcases and camps are super beneficial to get on the coach's radar. We went to Vanderbilt, a couple of the other Tennessee ones. Did we go to Alabama's?
No.
No. Okay, well, we went to a lot of the Southeast ones, and
did.
yeah, it is just a great way to get out there in front of the coaches and show them what you can do, and
But be mindful of the cost. Remember, you can
yes,
put your money
yeah,
into your training. Remember, these scouts are looking at your talent. They're looking at your skill level. They're looking at your strength. They're looking at your mindset, which also means like your approach. They want to know what kind of hitter you are and your approach.
yeah,
So keep in mind that there's a lot of things involved in the scouting. Now
and
we talked a little.
being patient too. I think is a big thing.
We talked a little bit about your experience. We talked about Baseball Factory. We talked about you going to showcases and and things like that. I was recruited.
Yeah, let's hear the story.
Well, I mean, it was a lot different back in the '80s. That's
Okay.
the 1980s.
Yeah, we see the evolution of
not
this.
the 1880s. But I was recruited by Princeton. Excuse me. Uh, he saw me in a American Legion game. I played left field. I dove for a ball in left field. I remember the game because he came up to me after the game. Princeton University, University of Princeton University. That's how much I really remember them. PU, yeah. I ended up going to FU, as you know, Fairfield University. But he saw me dive for a ball, and then I caught it, and I came up, and I doubled the guy up at first base. And then I think I got a couple of hits. Yeah. Right. It was a one hopper right there. Nice. So I did stuff like that. I made like a really spectacular play.
Was the guy on first hobbling off first?
Yeah, it was St. Mary's of the Blind we were playing at the time, so I think he didn't hear the catch. But yeah, so he saw me, came up to me, and he said, how I went to the number one regional Catholic high school in New Jersey, and there was a lot of kids in my grade that went to Ivy League schools.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, "Oh, you went to you go to Bergen Catholic? That's great. How are your grades?" And my grades were B plus A minus, so they weren't really Princeton material. For you risky business fans out there, that was always a funny.
Was he
joke
going
to
to Princeton?
Yeah, that was the joke of that movie. It's like
that's right. He had
I'm just not Princeton material.
The dean or one of the guys come and talk to him, right?
Right.
Okay,
right.
yeah.
So yeah, he was recruiting me hard. He's like, "Hey, I can get you in, but you got to write the essay. You got to come visit." I did go visit. Completely and totally intimidated by that, by like people walking around with stacks of books, and I made
wearing
some
sweaters.
Yeah, I made some stupid comment when I went up there, like just embarrassed my whole family with it. So I'm not even going to mention what I said, but it was bad. I just didn't want to go. And I ended up walking on at Fairfield University. But probably the most memorable story that I have of my recruiting or scouting, and I can't even really call it that, but when I was 17, summer of 17, going into my senior year, I played American Legion ball. That's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play travel ball. And I threw a one hitter against Union, down in Union.
The Union?
Just Union.
Just,
The American Legion team. I threw a one hitter, hit a triple and a single. And Dodger Scout came up to me. And somebody tells me, Dodger Scout wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Dodger Scout, I just threw a one hitter. I'm like, sure.
yeah.
First thing he said, and I'm excited. The first thing he says is, "You're not a pitcher, really. You're not really a pitcher." I was like, I just threw a one hitter. And he laughed and he goes, "You're a good catcher, though." He goes, "You're very quick." I had caught the year before. I guess he had seen me.
Mm-hmm.
And a very quick release, very, very fast back there, blocked very well, was a good receiver. And so he's like, yeah, he goes, "You need to stick with catching." And I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, "Let me see your hands." And he's like, you don't have really big hands. You got to catch those 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So here I am, like, Dodger Scout's coming to see me. I'm excited. Then he tells me I'm not a pitcher. I'm ready to slug him.
Right.
And then he says, "But you're a good catcher." And then I'm excited again.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Yeah, but you don't really have big enough hands to catch the fast pitchers." And I wanted to slug him again. And then I never heard from him again. So, because actually that
was that.
I did not catch ever again, really, because my high school needed me to pitch and I played outfield.
Right. Okay.
So that's my scouting story. Dodgers,
wow.
The Dodgers.
Dodgers
Get
man.
me again.
Yeah,
so
we
anyway, it was very different back then. But I did find it very telling. He obviously knew me. I must have had a couple of good games, threw out some runners my junior year in high school. I did not really catch a lot for the Legion team that year.
I noticed, I remember noticing too, just he was blunt with it.
Very blunt.
I remember at the baseball factory, the preseason All-American tournament, when I went there for the, I guess it was a showcase too, but one of the higher end scouts who was looking at me when I was catching, he would tell me, I was like, "You're not getting low enough. Your target's not low enough." And
I remember that. He actually came out there while you were doing.
He did, and he would watch me, and and I was like, I feel like I'm way too low. And then, sure enough, like he was 100% right. You need that target low, like almost below the knees, so you can steal strikes.
Right. So you can come up to it
right.
as opposed to.
No, but I just thought it was funny. Like he didn't care. I was about to start the inning, and he's like right there watching over me, and he's like, "You're not low enough." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Right. I remember seeing that was the game you actually did really well.
Yeah.
That was a triple, and then the single.
Yeah. No, that experience was really fun. When we actually, so going back to that, at my experience, doing a whole like showcase kind of tournament with a lot of prospects, it was definitely intimidating getting there. We flew in from here, Alabama to Arizona, where I think it was like 101, 102 degrees, like on the first day.
Yeah.
But we came in at night. Everybody got to meet everybody, all the prospects in my class. I was a sophomore.
Yeah.
I was like 15, yeah.
Yep.
And
you were a month away from your 16th birthday.
Right, yeah. So I remember we would do the measurables the first day in the morning. They gave us all the cool stuff and did the 60, the pop time. At the time, I didn't think I did outfield. I think I just went for catching. Yeah, I went just for catching.
You did.
Hit from both sides. And then the next day you play your games. Or that day and the next day you play your games.
Right. Yeah, the afternoon you played a game, and then the next day you played your games.
Right, yeah. Yep. So
I have it all on video.
Just to be in front of all those college scouts, and I think there were a few pro scouts there.
There was actually more pro scouts than college scouts, actually.
It was it was at the Cubs spring training
facility. It was,
yeah. So I felt like it was...
Do you remember? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just felt like it was, like once you're there and you're doing the thing, it's like, okay, like you just got to play, relax, have fun. Like and it is intimidating, but it is something like you just have to rely on your training for, and just play as hard as you can and show them what you can do. I think that was the biggest thing. Like
Yeah.
if I got too nervous or scared in front of them, I think they could see that, and
Right.
um, you just can't let the moment get way too big.
And we practiced a lot up to that
Yeah,
point. And so
yeah,
I
for
think you
sure.
were pretty well prepared.
Right.
I think that's a big key is just, trust yourself, trust your instincts,
Yeah.
trust your baseball training, go do your thing. And you were 15 and you were facing guys who were there from the class of 2015 and 16, and you were class of 2017,
Yeah.
even though it was, the year was 2015. So you got ranked. I'll brag on you a little bit. You got ranked in the top 10 prospects for the people who were there. The eight in
In
your
my
age.
class, right?
Do you remember who was number one?
It's like Cheater Downs.
Cheater Downs. Yeah, and he
He
made it to
played
the
for the
majors.
Nationals, the Yankees.
Is
Oh, he
he
didn't
still
play for the
playing?
Yankees, but he played for the Nationals. He played
Red
for
Sox.
Red Sox. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think he's playing anymore, but I could be wrong.
yeah.
Maybe he's
He
Korean baseball now.
maybe.
It might be
Well,
overseas
he's
now.
your age, so
Yeah.
he may still be maybe down in the minors. I don't think he would go right to Korea, but
And I remember looking back at that list. We were like pretty much everybody else was on that list was Division One and a couple pro prospects. And,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, there was some great ball players there. And for you to be 15 playing against a lot of guys who were, 17, 16,
Yeah.
17, 18.
It was super fun.
It was, yeah, it was definitely an amazing experience. That was an invitation only. They had a lot of camps and showcases that anybody could go to if you paid the money. They had like $3,000, $4,000. And that was like, what are you trying to get out of that? Like
Yeah.
why spend that money? Whereas this one was, you were invited to it and you were crowned, a preseason Under Armour
Yeah.
All-American, which had some merit. So so if you're ever looking for Johnny's video online, just type in Johnny Mangini Under Armour All-American and you'll see it and you'll see what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So a little plug for you.
Oh yeah.
So we've had some experience. Me, very little. Scouting. You went to lots of showcases. They saw your stroke from the left side and the
Yeah.
right side, pop time, stuff like that. So it was fun. I mean, I thought you did well. I thought just the difference between just 7, 8, 9 years ago when you were doing it to what it is now, just by comparison. I mean, they do this thing called visual edge now, which is 6 different criteria and visual skills, what they call core skills: alignment, depth perception, convergence, recognition, tracking. So they do these really in-depth tests for these kids now. They do blast motion, the hand speed, the bat speed. They do this thing called TrackMan, which is a lot of spin rate and velocity. So it's gotten more advanced. And like you said, they have the player profiles. They have 10-yard splits, 30-yard splits, and then of course 90 yards to first base, 90 feet to first base. So they're just adding more metrics, more information for these coaches to chew on. So I think it's good. I think PBR and Perfect Game and Baseball Factory, they do a great job. But you just have to navigate and decipher what's for you and what's not. PBR is in 42 states. They do rankings of the top players, up and coming. They do a spotlight, uncommitted spotlights. They do a great job. We're not trying to replace them. I think for us, kind of getting into maybe, again, what to expect in January, I think for us, we are going to list our top 25 preseason and then, after the season.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll take all these inputs and we'll, be accredited. We'll want to get anonymous tips from people on players and stuff, but we will, credit where credit is due and where we got our information.
Yeah.
But we do want to come up with our own lists. We know we have a lot of work to do to interact with coaches and learn more about, the rankings and look at people's profiles and players' profiles, stuff like that. But I think the fun part will be when we get to interview some of these players. And I don't think anybody's really doing that. I think if we could interview these players and really get to know them and maybe share that information to other coaches, they'll get a little bit more insight into some of these players because they really just get a snapshot at them. They really get just,
for sure,
a few minutes. They get to see them at showcases, but they, thank you for your time and nice to meet you. They ask them a few questions, but I think that for us will be the fun part.
Yeah, I think so. Something I found cool when going onto the Perfect Game site, just for their number one prospect, Ethan Holiday, for the class of 2025.
Right.
I found it interesting. They gave a full in-depth interview regarding like what he's expecting coming up. You know, because he's going to be drafted.
Yep.
The other Holiday brother who was drafted overall
Jackson.
before him, a couple years ago. I think it was just so interesting because I think he was like 6'2", 220 or something, and
He's bigger than his brother.
he's got a mean stroke. Like he's good and he's a great fielder. So yeah, and they give a full depth interview,
right?
All his measurables, where he's committed, OK State, and he'll get drafted for sure. But it looks like they just give him a little more attention.
Right.
And when you're that high of a prospect, yeah. But I think they gave him, with all the opportunities he has, it's because of how high of a prospect he is. You get all those opportunities from that,
for sure,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. So we're excited about it.
Yeah.
So, a couple things again to look forward to. We'll get into it more in January. We'll have some videos. We're gonna introduce the recruiting software that we like best, Haystack. So we'll be talking about that. I think there's a lot of good ones out there. Haystack's the most affordable, and it gives you just all the things that you need, I think, as a recruit. We'll talk about that. And make sure that you like and subscribe this episode. It helps the algorithm. It helps us grow it. We're going to need, as we go into 2025, we're going to need all the help we can get, especially with this new series. And then I'm wearing some of our merch here. We got our 3/4 shirt and 10% off. We got our Black Friday sale, and we'll have beanies as well. And what else?
Yeah, that's got the merch. And this was episode 17. This was the introduction to our 2025 scouting series. We hope you enjoy it. And we got a really good one next week. We got an interview with a good close friend of ours.
Super fan.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some off-season trades, preliminary,
free agent stuff, up-and-coming stuff, all off-season stuff.
Yeah, all off-season stuff and upcoming stars. So
yeah,
this will be fun. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.